I am Amber Wilson, 34, a senior software engineer who built my career from nothing while watching my parents shower my younger sister Kayla with endless support. Our relationship has always been strained, but nothing prepared me for what happened last Christmas. No invitation to family dinner, just a $30,000 invoice for my sister's dream car in my inbox. When I called in shock, my mom actually laughed and said, "You are just a bank to us." Dad added, "You are not worth a plate at Christmas." They had no idea what I would do next. Before I continue my story, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned to see how I handled the most painful family betrayal of my life. Growing up in a middle-class neighborhood in Portland, I always knew something was off about my family dynamic. Our house on Maple Street looked perfect from the outside, neatly trimmed lawn, matching bicycles in the garage, and family photos lining the hallway walls. But those smiling pictures hid a painful reality I lived with daily. From as early as I can remember, I was the responsible one, while Kayla, 3 years younger, was the undisputed golden child. When I brought home straight A's in middle school, my report card would get a quick glance and be placed on the refrigerator. When Kayla brought home B's and C's, there would be celebration dinners and excessive praise for her trying her best. The pattern was consistent and heartbreaking for a child who just wanted her parents' approval. My childhood memories are filled with sitting alone in the bleachers at my volleyball games, scanning the empty seats where my parents promised they would be. They always had an excuse. Dad had to work late, Mom had to take Kayla shopping for her dance recital costume. Speaking of dance recitals, I never missed a single one of Kayla's performances. My parents made sure the entire family attended, even when it meant I had to miss my science club competitions. The disparity continued into our teen years. When I turned 16, I received practical gifts, a used laptop for schoolwork, and some clothes for the upcoming year. When Kayla turned 16, my parents threw her an extravagant party at an expensive venue and gifted her a used car. I had saved for 3 years working at the local grocery store to buy my first vehicle, a beaten-up Honda that frequently broke down. College was where the divide became impossible to ignore. Despite having higher grades and more extracurricular activities, I received minimal financial support. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously, morning shifts at a coffee shop, afternoon tutoring, and weekend retail work, just to afford tuition and books. Meanwhile, my parents paid Kayla's full tuition, her apartment rent, and gave her a generous monthly allowance. Their justification was always the same: Amber is so independent and capable. Kayla needs more support to find her way. After graduation, I landed an entry-level programming job at a tech startup. The pay was modest, but it was my foot in the door. For 3 years, I worked 70-hour weeks, taking on extra projects and learning new programming languages on weekends. My dedication paid off when I was promoted to senior developer and later to my current position as team lead. Kayla's path couldn't have been more different. After college, she bounced between jobs, never staying anywhere longer than 6 months. She tried starting an online boutique that failed within a year. Then came her photography business that never got off the ground. Each venture ended the same way, with my parents bailing her out financially and consoling her that the world just wasn't ready for her talents. The distance between me and my family grew gradually over the past decade. I'd try to visit for holidays or special occasions, but always felt like an outsider in my own family. Conversations would revolve around Kayla's latest endeavors or problems, with minimal interest in my life or accomplishments. When I bought my first condo, my mother's response was, "That's nice, but don't you think it's a bit small?" When I received a major industry award, my father merely said, "Good for you," before changing the subject to Kayla's newest business idea. Then came the financial requests. It started small: $500 for Kayla's car repair, $1,000 for my parents' anniversary vacation, $2,000 for a temporary issue with their mortgage. None of these loans were ever repaid, and any mention of repayment was met with guilt trips about how families should support each other. Each time, I told myself it was the last time. But their manipulation tactics were effective at making me feel obligated. Last November, I decided to make one more attempt at rebuilding our relationship. I called my parents and suggested we all go to a nice restaurant for Thanksgiving instead of the usual gathering at their house. My mother hesitated, then said they had already made plans with Kayla and her new boyfriend Lucas. I was welcome to join them at the house, she added, almost as an afterthought. I declined and spent Thanksgiving with friends instead. 2 weeks before Christmas, I called my parents to discuss holiday plans. The conversation was strained, but ended with my mother saying, "We will figure something out and let you know." I interpreted this as a positive sign, a potential olive branch extended after years of distance. I even bought expensive gifts for everyone, a gourmet cooking set for my mom, a premium golf club for my dad, and designer boots Kayla had been posting about on Instagram. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful about our family connection. Little did I know what they were actually planning behind those vague promises of holiday togetherness. Christmas Eve started as a perfect winter day. I had decorated my apartment with twinkling lights, a small but elegant tree in the corner adorned with ornaments I had collected over the years. The scent of cinnamon and apple cider filled the air as I baked cookies, anticipating a potential last-minute invitation from my family. Despite our troubled history, the holidays always stirred up a sense of longing for connection. By mid-afternoon, I had wrapped all my gifts and placed them by the door, ready to grab if the call came. I checked my phone repeatedly, each hour that passed diminishing my hopes a little more. Still, I reminded myself that Christmas was about forgiveness and new beginnings. Perhaps this would be the year things changed. At 6:42 p.m., my phone pinged with a notification. My heart leaped when I saw it was from my father. Finally, the invitation I had been waiting for. But when I opened the message, my stomach dropped. It wasn't an invitation at all. It was a family photo. My parents, Kayla, her boyfriend Lucas, my grandparents, and a few aunts and uncles all gathered around a lavishly decorated dinner table. Everyone was smiling, wearing matching Christmas sweaters, raising glasses in a toast. The caption read, "Merry Christmas from the Wilson family." I stared at the photo in disbelief. They were all together celebrating Christmas Eve dinner, a dinner I hadn't been invited to. The realization hit me like a physical blow. While I had been waiting by the phone with wrapped gifts and hope in my heart, my entire extended family had gathered without me. Not only had I not been invited, but they had deliberately sent me photographic evidence of my exclusion. Before I could even process this pain, another notification appeared, an email from my father. Thinking perhaps it was an explanation or even an apology, I quickly opened it. What I found instead would forever change my relationship with my family. The email contained a PDF attachment labeled Invoice. Inside was a professionally formatted bill for $30,000 with the description, "Your sister's dream car, payment expected by New Year." There was no greeting, no explanation, not even a please, just bank account details for the transfer. I had to read it 3 times before the reality sank in. My parents had excluded me from Christmas dinner and instead sent me a bill for $30,000 to buy Kayla a car. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone as I tried calling my father. The call went straight to voicemail. I tried my mother with the same result. I even tried Kayla, but no one picked up. After 20 minutes of frantic calling, my mother finally answered. I could hear laughter and Christmas music in the background. "Hello, Amber. Is this about the invoice? We are in the middle of dessert." My voice trembled as I asked, "Mom, what is going on? Why wasn't I invited to Christmas? And why are you billing me $30,000 for a car for Kayla?" There was a pause. Then I heard my mother's cold laugh, a sound that would haunt me for months afterward. "Amber, let's be honest. You are just a bank to us at this point. You have all this money and no family of your own to spend it on. Kayla has been wanting the new Tesla Model 3, and since you never visit or participate in family events anyway, we figured you could at least contribute financially." I was speechless. My own mother had just openly admitted that they viewed me as nothing more than a source of money. "Can I speak to Dad?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely audible. I heard shuffling as the phone changed hands, then my father's gruff voice came through. Amber, I do not appreciate you disturbing our Christmas dinner with this. The invoice is clear. We expect the payment by New Year. Dad, I whispered, why wasn't I invited to Christmas? His response cut deeper than anything I had ever experienced. You are not worth a plate at Christmas, Amber. You have always been difficult and selfish. The least you can do is help your sister, who actually brings joy to this family. In the background, I could hear Kayla saying, is she going to pay for my car or what? I already picked out the color. The casual cruelty of it all made me physically ill. I ended the call without another word, then collapsed onto my kitchen floor, sobbing uncontrollably. The carefully wrapped presents mocked me from across the room as the full weight of my family's betrayal crushed down on me. I must have texted my friend Taylor in my distress, because 30 minutes later, she was knocking at my door, concern etched on her face. She found me still on the kitchen floor, surrounded by crumbled tissues. Amber, what happened? She asked, kneeling beside me. Through broken sobs, I showed her the photo and the invoice. Taylor's expression shifted from concern to outrage as she read the email and heard about the phone conversation. This is emotional abuse, Amber, she said firmly. And financial abuse too. No loving family treats someone this way. But they're my family, I whispered, the words sounding hollow even to my own ears. Taylor took my hands in hers. Blood doesn't make people family. Love, respect, and support do. And from what I can see, they have shown you none of those things. As the night wore on, Taylor helped me process the situation. She made us tea, ordered takeout when she realized I hadn't eaten, and most importantly, helped me see that this treatment wasn't normal or acceptable. By the time she left around midnight, one thing had become clear. Something had to change. I couldn't continue to be the family ATM while being excluded from actually being part of the family. What I didn't realize then was that this painful Christmas Eve would eventually become the greatest gift I had ever received, the push I needed to finally break free. Christmas Day dawned gray and cold, matching the emptiness I felt inside. Taylor had invited me to join her family, but I declined. I needed time alone to process everything that had happened. I spent the morning in my pajamas, staring blankly at the Christmas tree I had so carefully decorated, the presents for my family still sitting unwrapped by the door. Out of habit, I checked social media and immediately regretted it. My feed was flooded with images from my family's Christmas celebration. Kayla posting selfies with her boyfriend Lucas under the tree. My mother showcasing her elaborate Christmas dinner. My father playing Santa, distributing gifts to everyone. Extended family members tagging each other in group photos. It was as if they were deliberately flaunting their perfect family holiday, a holiday they had explicitly told me I wasn't worth being part of. The posts triggered memories I had long suppressed. I remembered being 8 years old, carefully unwrapping my Christmas gift to find practical items, new school supplies, and plain clothes for the upcoming semester. Meanwhile, 5-year-old Kayla received a mountain of toys, games, and pretty dresses. When I had asked why Santa brought Kayla more presents, my mother had replied, Santa brings what children deserve. Another Christmas when I was 12. I had saved my allowance for months to buy my parents thoughtful gifts, a gardening book for my mother's new hobby, and a vintage record for my father's collection. They had thanked me briefly before lavishing attention on Kayla's handmade card with a stick figure drawing. My gifts were forgotten on the side table while Kayla's card was prominently displayed on the refrigerator for months. Then there was the Christmas during my first year of college. I had worked double shifts to afford bus fare home, only to discover upon arrival that my bedroom had been converted into a project room for Kayla's art. I spent the holidays sleeping on an air mattress in the basement while Kayla complained that having me home was disrupting her creative space. Throughout my life, I had been conditioned to accept this treatment. Be the bigger person, Amber, my mother would say whenever I expressed hurt. Family comes first. My father would insist when I tried to establish boundaries. These phrases had become the chains that kept me tethered to people who consistently devalued me. Around noon, my phone began buzzing with messages from extended family members. Aunt Patricia, missed you yesterday. Where were you? Cousin Michael, everything okay? Strange not seeing you at Christmas. Uncle Robert, your parents said you were too busy with work to join us. Each message revealed another layer of deception. My parents hadn't just excluded me, they had created a narrative that made me the villain, the workaholic daughter too busy for family. Not one of these relatives had bothered to check with me directly before Christmas. Not one had questioned why I wouldn't be there. They had simply accepted my parents' explanation and carried on with the celebration. By mid-afternoon, I couldn't bear the isolation anymore. I called Dr. Brenda Hayes, my therapist, hoping she might be available for an emergency session despite the holiday. To my relief, she agreed to a video call. Amber, I can see you're in tremendous pain, Dr. Hayes said after I recounted the events of Christmas Eve. What your family has done goes beyond simple favoritism or misunderstanding. This is a pattern of emotional and financial abuse. But shouldn't families support each other? I asked, repeating the line my parents had used to justify their requests for money. Support is mutual, Amber. It flows both ways. What you are describing is exploitation, not support, Dr. Hayes explained gently. Have your parents ever supported you emotionally? Have they celebrated your achievements or comforted you during hardships? I thought about it and realized the answer was no. Even my college graduation had been overshadowed by Kayla's drama about breaking up with her boyfriend the same weekend. Your relationship with your family appears to be transactional rather than emotional, Dr. Hayes continued. They view you as a resource to be used rather than a person to be loved. The session helped me see the pattern more clearly, but the pain remained. After the call ended, I decided to do something I had never done before. Document every instance of financial help my family had requested over the years. I opened a spreadsheet and began listing every loan, gift, and contribution I could remember. $3,000 for Kayla's business startup that failed within months. $5,000 for my parents' roof repair when their insurance wouldn't cover it. $2. $500 for Kayla's outstanding credit card debt. $4,000 for my parents' anniversary cruise. $1,800 for Kayla's rent when she quit her job to find herself. The list went on and on, eventually totaling over $45,000 in the past 5 years alone. Not a single dollar had ever been repaid. Seeing the numbers in black and white made me feel physically ill. This wasn't family support, this was systematic financial exploitation. As evening fell, I received a notification that jarred me out of my accounting project. Kayla had posted a photo of herself standing next to a brand new Tesla Model 3, bright red with a giant bow on top. The caption read, "Best Christmas ever. Thanks Mom and Dad for making my dream come true." I stared at the screen in disbelief. They had already purchased the car. The $30,000 invoice they had sent me wasn't for a future purchase. It was to reimburse them for a gift they had already given her. A gift they had taken credit for, with no mention of the expected contribution from me. Within minutes, my phone pinged with a text from my father. "Saw you viewed Kayla's post. Reminder that we expect the transfer by December 31st. Don't disappoint your sister." No questions about how I was spending Christmas alone. No acknowledgement of the gifts I had purchased for them. Just another demand for money. Something broke inside me at that moment. The last thread of hope that perhaps there was a misunderstanding, that perhaps they did care for me in their own way, snapped completely. For the first time, I saw with perfect clarity what I had been denying for years. I was nothing more than a bank account to the people who should have loved me most. That night, as Christmas Day came to a close, I made myself a promise. This would be the last Christmas I spent wounded by their actions. Something had to change, and since I couldn't change them, I would have to change how I responded to them. Little did they know, the daughter they had underestimated for so long was about to show them exactly what she was worth. New Year's Eve arrived less than a week after the Christmas disaster. My friend Jessica had invited me to her annual party, insisting that surrounding myself with genuine support was exactly what I needed. I had initially declined, preferring to wallow in my apartment, but Jessica wouldn't take no for an answer. "Amber, I know you are hurting," she had said firmly. "But sitting alone staring at those family photos will not help. Come be with people who actually value you." So there I was, Standing in Jessica's beautifully decorated living room, nursing a glass of champagne and trying to appear festive despite the hollow feeling in my chest. Jessica had been thoughtful enough not to mention my family situation to other guests, but the weight of my decision deadline hung over me like a storm cloud. Tomorrow was the payment date my father had demanded. Around 10 p.m., the facade I had carefully maintained began to crack. Jessica found me in her guest bathroom, tears streaming down my face as I clutched my phone, staring at yet another text from my father, expecting to see the transfer confirmation tomorrow. Do not let your sister down. I cannot do this anymore, Jess, I sobbed as she closed the door behind her. Every message feels like another knife in my heart. Jessica guided me to sit on the edge of the bathtub and called in reinforcements. Within minutes, our close friends Martin, Dana, and Rachel had joined us in the impromptu bathroom support session. Party sounds muffled behind the closed door. You need to tell us everything, Dana said, her therapist instincts kicking in despite the holiday setting. No more protecting them with vague explanations. So I did. I showed them the Christmas dinner photo I hadn't been invited to, the invoice, the cruel messages, and Kayla's new car post. I detailed years of financial demands, emotional manipulation, and blatant favoritism. Once I started, the words poured out like a dam breaking, years of hurt and rejection flowing freely. What surprised me most was their reaction. There was no shock, no disbelief, only sad recognition. My brother treats me the same way, Martin confessed. Always taking, never giving back. Then making me feel guilty for having boundaries. My mother pulled similar stunts, Rachel added. She would exclude me from family events, then blame me for choosing to be distant. One by one, my friends shared their own experiences with toxic family dynamics. Each story validated my pain and helped me see that what I was experiencing wasn't normal or acceptable. It wasn't my failure as a daughter that had created this situation. It was my parents' failure to love me unconditionally. As midnight approached, we rejoined the main party. My heart felt lighter knowing I wasn't alone in my struggle. We were counting down the final seconds of the year when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Uncle Frank, my father's brother, who I had always been close to despite the family dynamics. I stepped onto Jessica's balcony to take the call, the winter air sharp in my lungs. Uncle Frank? Is everything okay? His voice sounded troubled. Amber, I needed to call you. Something did not sit right with me about Christmas. And after a few drinks tonight, I need to tell you what your parents have been saying. My stomach tightened as he continued. They told everyone you refused to come to Christmas dinner despite multiple invitations. They said you were too focused on your career to make time for family. Your mother has been telling people that you are becoming elitist because of your tech job. I gripped the balcony railing for support. Uncle Frank, they never invited me. The first contact I got was a photo of everyone at dinner and an invoice for $30,000 for Kayla's car. There was a long pause before he responded. I was afraid of that. There is more, Amber. They have been telling the family that they helped pay for your education and have been supporting your career financially all these years. They take credit for your success while complaining about your ingratitude. The revelation struck like a physical blow. Not only had they excluded and used me, but they had been actively constructing a false narrative to the extended family, portraying themselves as generous parents and me as an ungrateful daughter. Thank you for telling me, I managed to say through the shock. I should have questioned things sooner, Uncle Frank replied, regret evident in his voice. I am sorry, Amber. After we hung up, I stood on the balcony as fireworks burst overhead, marking the start of a new year. Instead of hope, all I felt was mounting rage. Years of suppressed anger bubbled to the surface, no longer contained by my desire to be the good daughter who kept the peace. When I returned to my apartment in the early hours of New Year's Day, an email from my father was waiting. Amber, it is now January 1st, and we have not received the transfer for Kayla's car. If the money is not received by end of business day, we will be forced to take legal action for the amount promised. Your constant disappointment of this family must end. Dad, they had never even asked if I would help with the car. They had simply assumed they were entitled to my money. And now they were threatening to sue me for a promise I had never made. That email was my breaking point. The final thread connecting me to the fantasy that things might improve one day snapped completely. I called Greg Powell, an attorney friend from college, and scheduled an urgent meeting for the next day. The time for being the bigger person had passed. The time for family obligation was over. The daughter they had always underestimated was about to show them exactly who she had become, a woman who valued herself enough to say no. As I closed my laptop that night, a strange calm replaced my anger. I recognized it as the tranquility of absolute certainty. For the first time in my life, I knew exactly what I needed to do, and I had the strength to do it. The first business day of the new year found me in attorney Greg Powell's downtown office instead of at my software development job. I had emailed my team lead requesting an emergency week of personal leave, something I had never done in my entire career. The seriousness of my request was met with immediate approval, a testament to the professional reputation I had built through years of dedication. Greg's office was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the cold January day outside. We had kept in touch since college, occasionally meeting for coffee, but this was the first time I had sought his professional services. Amber, I have to say, this is quite a situation, Greg said after reviewing the emails, texts, and financial records I had brought. The good news is they have absolutely no legal ground to stand on. You never agreed to pay for this car. There was no contract, no verbal agreement, nothing that would constitute a legally binding promise. So they cannot actually sue me? I asked, relief evident in my voice. They can try, Greg shrugged, but it would be thrown out immediately. What concerns me more is the pattern of financial exploitation. This has been going on for years. We spent the next 2 hours developing a comprehensive strategy. Greg drafted a formal letter declining payment for the car and clearly stating that no further financial requests would be considered. The language was professional but firm, closing all possible loopholes they might try to exploit. Send this by certified mail, Greg advised. And do not engage with them directly after this. Any communication should come through me. My next stop was Heather Donovan's financial advisory office. Heather had been managing my investments for the past few years, helping me build the stability I never had growing up. We need to protect your assets, she explained after hearing my situation. First, let's change all your banking passwords and security questions. Family members often know the answers to common security questions like your first pet or elementary school. Heather helped me update all my financial accounts with new multi-factor authentication. We froze my credit to prevent anyone from opening accounts in my name and revised my financial power of attorney documents to remove my parents as emergency contacts. You have worked too hard for your financial security to have it compromised, Heather said as our meeting concluded. These boundaries are not just emotional, they're essential protections. Back at my apartment, I set up a new email address and phone number. My old contacts would be transferred gradually, but family would not receive these new details. I spent hours combing through social media, adjusting privacy settings, and removing family members from my digital life. Each click felt like cutting another string that had kept me tethered to their manipulation. The most difficult task came midweek, calling my grandparents. Despite my parents' behavior, I loved my grandparents deeply and didn't want to lose that connection. With trembling fingers, I dialed their number. Grandma? It's Amber. I need to tell you something important. My grandmother listened quietly as I explained the situation, the Christmas exclusion, the car invoice, the years of financial demands and emotional manipulation. I kept my tone factual and calm, despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm me. I am not cutting contact with you and Grandpa, I explained carefully. But I am establishing firm boundaries with my parents and Kayla. I wanted you to hear it from me directly. There was a long pause before my grandmother spoke. I had no idea things were this bad, Amber. Your grandfather and I noticed you weren't at Christmas. But your mother said you had chosen not to come. We should have called you directly. Her words were both validating and painful. How many other family events had I supposedly chosen to miss? I still want you in my life, I assured her. But I needed you to understand why things will be different going forward. We love you, Amber, my grandmother said softly. And we are proud of the woman you have become, even if your parents don't show it. That evening, I attended a support group for adults dealing with family estrangement. The community center room was filled with people whose stories echoed aspects of my own. Under the guidance of facilitator Sarah Jenkins, we practiced confrontation techniques and boundary-setting language. The hardest part for many people, Sarah explained to the group, is the guilt that follows standing up for yourself. Prepare for that now. Write down your reasons for establishing boundaries and review them when the guilt tries to pull you back into unhealthy patterns. Following her advice, I created a document titled Why I'm Choosing Myself and listed every instance of exploitation, favoritism, and emotional manipulation I could remember. The document ran to 7 pages, a stark visual representation of patterns I had normalized for too long. By the end of my week off work, everything was in place. Greg's letter had been sent by certified mail. My financial accounts were secured. My new contact information was ready. I had built a support network of friends, professionals, and group members who understood my journey. The final step was the most difficult. I sat at my kitchen table on Sunday evening, staring at the formal response I had drafted with Greg's help. It outlined every loan my parents had requested over the years, with dates, amounts, and proof of transfers, along with a clear statement that no further financial support would be provided. It explained that their treatment of me was unacceptable and that I would be taking a step back from family interactions until they could demonstrate respect for my boundaries. My finger hovered over the send button. Was I really ready to do this? Decades of conditioning made me hesitate. What if they needed me? What if this permanently damaged our relationship? Then I remembered my mother's cold laugh on Christmas Eve. You are just a bank to us. My father's dismissive words. You are not worth a plate at Christmas. With a deep breath, I pressed send. Then I blocked their numbers, email addresses, and social media accounts. The ball was now in their court, but for the first time, I was not waiting anxiously for their response. I was moving forward with or without them. As I closed my laptop, I felt something unexpected, not grief or anxiety, but a profound sense of freedom. For 34 years, I had been trying to earn the love that should have been freely given. Now I was finally giving that love to myself. The response to my boundaries was swift and predictable. Despite blocking their direct contact methods, my family found alternative ways to reach me. My Aunt Linda called the day after the certified letter arrived at my parents' house. Amber, what is going on? Your mother is absolutely distraught over this letter. How could you be so cruel? I had prepared for this moment during my support group sessions. Aunt Linda, I understand this seems sudden to you, but this decision comes after years of mistreatment. I need to take care of my own well-being now. But they're your parents. And poor Kayla is devastated about the car situation. Families should support each other. Her voice rose with each statement. I have supported them emotionally and financially for years without reciprocation, I replied calmly. I am not discussing this further, but I hope you can respect my decision. Similar calls came from other relatives throughout the week. Some were angry, some bewildered, some attempting to guilt me into reconciliation. Each conversation followed the same pattern, flying monkeys dispatched to bring the wayward daughter back into line. Meanwhile, social media became a battlefield. Kayla posted a tearful video about how her selfish sister had ruined her dream car experience. My mother shared vague statements about ungrateful children and the pain of parental sacrifice. Distant relatives and family friends commented with sympathy and outrage on my behalf, none having heard my side of the story. I maintained digital silence, neither defending myself nor engaging with the narrative they were constructing. Greg had advised against public statements that could be twisted or used against me later. Instead, I focused on rebuilding my life without the constant drain of toxic family expectations. 3 weeks after sending the letter, the tactics changed. A massive bouquet arrived at my office with a card reading, "We miss you. Family is forever. Call us. Love, Mom and Dad." This was followed by daily voicemails on my work phone, the one number they still had, alternating between tearful pleas and angry demands. The emotional whiplash was disorienting. One day they were painting me as a monster to the extended family. The next, they were love-bombing me with gifs and nostalgic references. Dr. Hayes helped me recognize this as a classic pattern of manipulation. When threats and guilt failed, they switched to affection and nostalgia to regain control. This reaction actually confirms you made the right decision, Dr. Hayes explained during one of our sessions. They are cycling through manipulation tactics because they have lost their power over you. Stay steady. Staying steady became easier when unexpected support emerged from within the family. My Aunt Laura, my mother's younger sister, reached out through a handwritten letter sent to my office. Amber, I have watched how they have treated you for years and said nothing. That was my failure. What you are doing takes immense courage. I experienced similar treatment from our parents before I moved across the country. If you ever want to talk with someone who understands, I am here. Aunt Laura's validation was like oxygen after years of suffocation. We began a correspondence that revealed generational patterns of favoritism and exploitation in our family. She had been the Amber of her generation, expected to financially support her siblings while receiving minimal emotional support in return. More surprisingly, my cousin Derek reached out next. They did the same thing to me last year. He confided during our phone call, asked me to loan them $15,000 for a kitchen remodel after excluding me from the family reunion. I gave in because I was afraid of being cut off. I admire you for standing your ground. These connections revealed that I wasn't the only one who had been mistreated. A pattern existed across the extended family, certain members designated as givers, others as takers, with clear favorites who received both emotional and financial support while others were expected to contribute without complaint. As winter melted into spring, the initial storm of family drama began to subside. The flying monkeys retreated when their missions proved unsuccessful. Social media posts about ungrateful children gave way to new family dramas unrelated to me. My parents made 2 more significant attempts at contact, once when they discovered their shared Netflix account had been removed from my payment method, and again when Kayla's latest business venture failed and they needed investors. Each attempt made it clearer that their interest was primarily financial. There were no questions about my well-being. No acknowledgments of past hurts, no signs of reflection or growth, just different approaches to the same goal of accessing my resources. As my birthday approached in April, I faced it with a mixture of trepidation and hope. It would be my first birthday without obligatory family dinner and forced reconciliation attempts. Instead of dreading the awkward celebration, I planned a day that centered entirely on my own joy. My friends organized a surprise weekend getaway to a beachside cottage where we hiked, cooked together, and stayed up late playing board games and sharing stories. For the first time, my birthday felt like a genuine celebration of my life, rather than an obligation to endure. There were no passive-aggressive comments about my career choices, no comparisons to Kayla's latest endeavors, no tension lurking beneath forced smiles. Just authentic connection with people who valued me for exactly who I was. That same month, I received news of a major promotion at work. The week I had taken off to reclaim my life had given me clarity not just personally but professionally. I returned to work with renewed focus and creativity, channeling the energy previously consumed by family drama into innovative projects. My team lead noticed the difference immediately, and when a senior position opened up, she recommended me without hesitation. "You have always been talented," she told me during the congratulatory lunch. "But these past few months, you have been exceptional. Whatever changes you have made in your life clearly agree with you." She was right. Freeing myself from the constant drain of one-sided family obligations had transformed more than just my emotional state. It had created space for growth in every area of my life. I joined a weekend hiking group, took cooking classes, and even started mentoring junior developers at a local coding bootcamp. The time and emotional energy previously devoted to managing family chaos now nourished activities that actually replenished me. The most significant change came in October, nearly a year after the Christmas car invoice. I was volunteering at a tech workshop for teenage girls when a student named Zoe shared that she felt constantly overshadowed by her perfect older sister. My parents always compare us, she confided during a break. Nothing I do is ever good enough because I am not her. In that moment, I recognized an opportunity to break the cycle of family dysfunction by helping someone else navigate similar waters. I shared parts of my own experience and the importance of building self-worth that did not depend on family validation. Your value does not decrease because someone fails to see it, I told her. And you do not have to earn love through achievement or compliance. Speaking these truths to Zoe cemented them in my own heart. I realized I had finally reached a place where my family's opinion of me no longer determined my sense of self-worth. Their approval or disapproval had lost its power. As the holiday season approached again, I felt a new sense of peace. I had survived a year of standing my ground, weathering the storms of guilt, manipulation, and flying monkeys. I had discovered genuine support in unexpected places and built new traditions with chosen family. Most importantly, I had learned that blood relation alone does not create genuine family bonds. Respect, reciprocity, and love do. The journey had been painful but necessary. Like a broken bone that needs to be reset to heal properly, the breaking of toxic family patterns hurt intensely but created the possibility of authentic healing. And for the first time in my adult life, I was truly healing. 1 year after the Christmas car invoice that changed everything, I stood in my newly redecorated apartment, surveying the transformation. Fresh paint and colors I had chosen purely because they brought me joy. Bookshelves filled with titles that interested me rather than impressive volumes meant to earn parental approval. Photos of friends who had become my chosen family displayed prominently where obligatory family portraits once hung. The physical changes reflected my inner journey, a space wholly mine, designed for my comfort and happiness rather than to meet others' expectations. This Christmas would be entirely different from the last. No waiting by the phone for invitations that would never come. No carefully wrapped gifts for people who measured my worth in dollar signs. No walking on eggshells to avoid triggering family drama. Instead, I had plans that filled me with genuine anticipation. Jessica and Martin were hosting a Christmas Eve gathering for friends without local family. Taylor had organized a Christmas morning brunch potluck. And in the evening, I would volunteer serving dinner at a local shelter, something I had always wanted to do but had never prioritized over obligatory family events. My healing journey through therapy with Dr. Hayes had helped me understand that family estrangement, while painful, was sometimes the healthiest choice. Estrangement does not mean failure, she had explained during one pivotal session. Sometimes it is the only self-preservation option in relationships where change seems impossible. The support group had become an essential part of my life, transitioning from a crisis resource to a community of friends with shared experiences. We had celebrated holidays together, supported each other through difficult anniversaries, and created new traditions that honored our journeys rather than perpetuating painful patterns. Sarah, our group facilitator, often reminded us, healing is not linear. There will be days when grief overwhelms you, when guilt creeps back in, when you question your decisions. Those moments do not invalidate your progress, they are part of the process. She had been right. Throughout the year, I experienced waves of grief for the family relationship I had always wanted but never had. There were moments when I picked up my phone to call my mother after a work achievement, only to remember that her response would likely diminish rather than celebrate my success. There were nights when family memories, the rare good ones, would surface, tempting me to minimize the harm and try again. Each time, I returned to the document I had created listing the patterns of mistreatment. I revisited journal entries documenting how I felt after family interactions versus time with friends who genuinely supported me. The contrast was always stark and clarifying. In late November, almost a year since our estrangement began, my parents made one final attempt at contact. A certified letter arrived at my office, their response to discovering I had changed my address without informing them. Amber, the letter began, your sister's business is struggling again, and we need your investment to save it. We know we have had our differences, but family must come together in times of need. We expect you to contribute $25,000 as the successful member of this family. If your response is negative, we will have no choice but to sell the family vacation cabin that we had planned to leave to you in our will. There was no apology for past behavior, no acknowledgement of the hurt they had caused, no questions about my well-being after a year of separation. Just another financial demand wrapped in manipulation and threats. A year earlier, this letter would have sent me spiraling into guilt and obligation. Now, I felt only sadness and confirmation that my decision had been the right one. The cabin they mentioned had been purchased during my childhood, with a substantial loan from my grandparents that was never repaid. Its use as leverage revealed how little had changed. I forwarded the letter to Greg without responding directly. My boundaries remained firm, a testament to the inner strength I had built over the past year. What surprised me most about life after family estrangement was not the challenges, but the unexpected freedom. Without the constant drain of one-sided relationships, I discovered energy for new pursuits. I joined a community garden, took a creative writing class, and even started dating again after years of putting my personal life on hold. Most meaningful was my volunteer work mentoring young women from difficult family backgrounds. The tech workshop where I met Zoe had expanded into a regular program, creating pathways for girls interested in STEM careers regardless of family support. Using my experience to help others find their voice and value became the most healing aspect of my journey. You cannot control whether your family values you properly, I would tell my ments, but you can build a life filled with people who do. And you can break the pattern for the next generation. Breaking generational patterns became my personal mission. The cycle of favoritism, financial exploitation, and emotional manipulation that had wounded my Aunt Laura, then me, would stop here. If I ever had children of my own, they would grow up knowing their inherent worth wasn't tied to their usefulness or compliance. My financial independence had been the key that unlocked the door to emotional independence. By securing my own stability, I gained the freedom to choose healthy relationships rather than enduring toxic ones out of necessity. This realization led me to establish a small scholarship fund for young women pursuing education despite family obstacles, turning my pain into purpose. As Christmas Eve arrived, I welcomed my chosen family into my home for pre-party appetizers before heading to Jessica's gathering. Looking around at these people who loved me not for what I could provide, but simply for who I was, I felt a profound sense of gratitude. I want to thank you all, I said, raising my glass in a toast. A year ago, I thought losing my family meant being alone forever. You showed me that family is not defined by blood, but by love, respect, and mutual support. You helped me discover what genuine family feels like. The path forward remained open-ended. I had not permanently closed the door on reconciliation, but I had installed a strong lock that required genuine change from my parents before I would consider opening it again. My life no longer revolved around their approval or disapproval. I maintained the open-door policy with relatives like Aunt Laura and Cousin Derek who respected my boundaries while protecting myself from those who did not. The most valuable lesson of my journey was learning that love should never require self-erasure. Real love builds up rather than diminishes. It supports rather than exploits. It celebrates rather than competes. This understanding transformed how I approached all relationships, creating space for connections based on mutual respect rather than obligation or fear. As we prepare to head to Jessica's party, I want to ask you, have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? How did you navigate those challenging waters? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else feeling alone in their journey. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more authentic conversations about family dynamics, healing, and creating the life you deserve. Remember that your worth is inherent, not earned. And sometimes the most loving choice you can make is to love yourself enough to walk away from those who cannot see your value. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May your holidays be filled with genuine connection and the kind of love that lifts rather than diminishes your spirit.